All right, everyone, welcome back into another betting video. We are going to be breaking down the top bets here for this Friday game between the LA Chargers and the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's go ahead and get into it. So as always, I do want to start off with kind of the game expectations here. It is a 3-point spread in favor of the Chiefs winning. If I were to choose a bet on this game, I really don't necessarily think we have to. This game is going to be played in Brazil. With that being said, we know that the turf quality is not always like great. If you guys remember the game between the Packers and the Eagles, a lot of fluky plays, a lot of players just slipping and sliding everywhere. Hopefully that gets resolved in this game, but chances are probably not. So there could be some fluky plays there. For the most part, that leads me to not want to bet on the game. Now, if I wanted to, like in this regard, like props betting, we'll do that. But if I was forced into a bet, I guess I would choose the Chargers at plus 140 there, the money line. But really, I kind of agree for the most part with the lines that we're getting here. But if I was forced into a bet, I could see the Chargers just kind of finally getting this game against the Chiefs. Maybe it, not being in the United States could actually benefit them. But for the most part, I think we're just staying away from those types of bets. Now we are going to start off with the Prize Picks Optimizer, just highlighting the top prop bets that we're getting on Prize Picks. And there's really kind of two that we can consider, but there is one that I think is very interesting here, and that's going to be Noah Gray for over his fantasy score of 4. It's just kind of a fascinating line that we're getting for him. Okay, because when we look at the other lines that we're getting for him, 2 receptions and his receiving yards line is at 17.5. So they really aren't baking much else into this equation. That's kind of the tough part with fantasy score, is how much of the touchdown is being, part of the equation factor. Will he get an extra reception? Will he get, a few extra receiving yards? And so you can see why this is a slight edge for us at about 53%. My biggest issue with Noah Gray is that, towards the end of the season last year, his role really fell off. They're kind of depending on him a decent amount throughout the start of this season, and maybe that could be part of the plan again. If this was a bet that wasn't popping up and a bet where we are seemingly getting a pretty darn good edge, I wouldn't be going out of my way to target it, whereas at the start of the year last year, I was doing that. But overall, I think this is a fine bet that we are looking at for this game. Then as well, let's just stick kind of with the Kansas City Chiefs here, and we're going to just look then at Isaiah Pacheco. Okay, so Isaiah Pacheco, this would actually be a slightly better bet for the under on underdog. But I don't necessarily want to get to this. This one has a 53% chance to hit. And again, if we kind of just pull up all the bets that we're getting for him in general, at 12 rush attempts, to me, that's kind of, a pretty big line there. And then you look at his total rush receiving yards, about 63.5. That's going to be true like for all the sports books as well. 2 receptions as well. So he's right around 8-ish right there already. And part of this is just really how he looked in the preseason. The one thing I was looking for, like kind of when watching the film for the Chiefs, was specifically how Pacheco looked, because telling the season last year, he looked bad. He flat out looked bad. And then during the preseason, he had his burst back. He kind of had what we had come to know of Isaiah Pacheco. And so for me, I'm kind of just taking a wait-and-see approach. I don't feel the need to force any bet in there with him. Now, let's go ahead and get into Xavier Worthy here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pull him up here on the Prize Picks Optimizer, just because I think people like this view a little bit more, honestly, but we'll see. I called this one out on yesterday's video as a bet that I like, just because we were getting some pretty big prop line differences between Prize Picks and Underdog with how they're valuing Xavier Worthy. On Prize Picks, it's at 14 for his fantasy score. On Underdog, it's at 16. Now, stay with me here, guys. If you're someone that's not betting on Prize Picks, you're betting on more traditional sports books. I also like him to get over his 5 receptions here. This is seemingly a decent bet as well. Okay, so the average sportsbook line is already telling us to kind of bet the over for him to get about 5.36, the projection about 5.5 right there. Then we look at kind of what he did last year as well. And I think this is a good sample size because Rice is going to be out for this game as well. He did, as the season progressed, start to get into that Rashid Rice role as well. Maybe the books are thinking Hollywood Brown's going to be a little bit more involved. Maybe Juju Smith-Schuster's going to be a little bit more involved. I don't know. I think Xavier Worthy really stepped up into that kind of receiver number 1 role without Rice and was a valuable asset for them. So I do think that there's a great chance for his bet to end up being a push at 5, but I probably would still be betting on him to get over 5.5 receptions as well. We could pull him up here on the 9 to 5 weekly projections here as well. Kind of pull up his projections as well. Basically the exact same stuff that we're seeing. They're just laid out a little bit differently. I had this set for Prize Pick scoring right now, and he is projected to get 15.6 points. So if you guys like the over fantasy score, That's going to be a good bet for him, but I also like his over 5 receptions. Really depends on where you guys are playing there. So I know I start out with like 3 fantasy score prop bets. Not everyone is playing on sites that have those. So pretty much for the rest of the video, it'd be more traditional bets, just as an FYI. So guys, from there, I don't necessarily love any of the other bets that we are getting for the Chiefs. I don't know what to expect of the role for Kelsey to start the season. I kind of expect it to be the same as last year, where once they need him in the playoffs and towards the end of the season, that's when he'll start to really get going again. They're going to try to maybe limit his snaps at the start of the season if possible. And that would be a good thing for like Noah Gray, obviously. Then we do look at some of the lines that we're getting with Patrick Mahomes just in general. All of them are basically, 51% or 50-50 splits, okay? We're really not getting an edge there in general. And just looking at the lines that we're getting, for him with this game, with it being a close game, I don't necessarily need to go out of my way to target them. Again, the field's a little bit different. I don't necessarily want to bet on his pass completions. I don't necessarily want to bet on his pass attempts, partially because of that. Now, I will say I do think we are getting better bets for the Chargers. So let's go ahead and get into those. And so for the Chargers, what we'll notice is we're really not getting that many like good bets plus EV bets. I will say I'm kind of inclined to bet on over tackles and assist bets here for Henley for over 8.5. I really don't mind that. Okay, we are getting some interesting lines. I will say for Omarion Hampton, he is expected to start in this game. The question is just how much work will Najee Harris get, who was kind of expected to be more of the 1A at the start of the season to Omarion Hampton's 1B. That's probably going to be flipped here because Najee Harris hasn't been that involved in the camp because he apparently messed up his eye on the 4th of July. Okay, but he has been practicing. He's kind of looked like his normal self. Has Hampton won the starting role, or has it just been that Hampton's been at camp and it's a new offense for both of them, so they're going to trust Hampton a little bit more? We don't know. We'll see what happens there. And so for me, when we're looking at the bets that we're getting for Hampton, they do seem a little bit low if he's going to be the RB1 in this offense, in this game, like all of them. I would be fine betting it's over 11.5 rush attempts. But at the same time, we look at the ones for Najee Harris, and I kind of think that these are really low for him as well. Like 6 rush attempts for him. Like I know he's not going to be starting, but at the same time, if it does end up being even a 60-40 split with Harris getting 40% of the snaps, like when he's on the field, he's probably going to be rushing the football. So very low lines, but for the most part, guys, I'm staying away from those ones. I think we are getting the edge, and some people are going to hate this because this player has a lot of drops, and that's probably the only tease I need to give you guys is going to be Quentin Johnston there for the LA Chargers. And I just want to call out the lines that we're getting from him because he is expected to still be the outside receiver. It'll be interesting to see how much of McConkey gets slot work and how much Keenan Allen gets slot work and just how much Keenan Allen ends up playing. At the same token, it will be interesting to see how much Johnston ends up playing as well. That is the wrinkle there. And I think that's why we're getting these low lines for him. He got injured on a play as well during camp on a drop that he had as well. And that's just kind of like all right, let's bring in Keenan Allen type moment there. But his lines are really egregiously low if his role is about the same as what it was last year. And I think it's interesting to call it that he has a goblin bet here of 1.5 receptions on PrizePicks. So what that means is PrizePicks is valuing him to get to 2 receptions, right? And so if he gets to 2 receptions, you look at a guy like Johnston, if you're looking for a standard bet, this is an egregiously low line for him if he's going to get 2 receptions because he's more of an air yards guy. He's more of a downfield target type of guy. He's not going to get 2 short receptions, most likely. You never know. And so, like, especially in a game that is a higher scoring game as well, it's a very interesting line. And again, he probably won't get as much work as he got last year. But even if he only sees like a reduction of like 10%, 15% of his snaps, we won't like that. But he should still be able to get this over. And so for me, guys, the simple fact that we're getting him at 1.5 reception, and then look at his longest reception line as well, 14.5, and receiving targets at 4.5, that tells me that this line of 22.2 receiving yards is a little bit too low. And it's worth calling out that, like, if we look on the 9-to-5 PrizePicks optimizer, the underdog line is more right. It's at 25.5. Okay, the average sportsbook line, 24.3. Projection data is giving him about 30, which is probably a little bit too high. But yeah, that line on PrizePicks at 22.5 is too low. I expect it to get corrected. Maybe after this video is posted, we'll see. I would still be okay, I think, betting on his over at 23.5, 24.5, but once it starts to get up to 25.5, no need to force it in there. From that point, I'd probably just be okay betting on him to get over 1.5 receptions. Okay, so another player I want to talk about, and you guys stay with me here, I get it. But I think this is where we're getting our value here, okay? We don't exactly know what to expect from the Chargers, okay? Which is kind of the fun part, I think, personally. And just looking at it, Tyler Conklin's interesting, okay? He's listed as the tight end number 2. We'll see if that ends up being true. I'm a little bit shocked by that, okay? Will Dissly's going to be the tight end number 1. I kind of expect that to be more of a 50-50 split. Conklin is a good pass catcher. Look at what he did for the Jets, the past several seasons. It's been pretty darn good. And I will admit, I could be completely wrong about his situation. And I have noticed on some sites that over 1.5 receptions is still a standard bet. Obviously, I'm just showing you guys this on PrizePicks. If you guys are some that bets on PrizePicks, you could bet this, but other sites have it as a standard line. I'd be fine betting on him to go over 1.5 receptions. Again, it's a little bit of a guessing game on his snaps. We don't necessarily know it, but it's a bet that I do like. And again, just to kind of call out with the Noah Gray fantasy score, the 4 for him, okay, the expectation for Conklin here is to get 3.75 for his fantasy score, except he's at 4.5 for his fantasy score, whereas Noah Gray is in the same situation, similar situation, it's at 4. So that kind of echoes that slight edge that we were getting there with Noah Gray. And then I also want to talk about Ladd McConkey here. So for Ladd McConkey, I think we are gaining a pretty decent edge as well with his reception line. I'm actually surprised that's at 5.5. I would have thought it'd be at 6. I think that would have been like the baseline because I'm expecting him to get to 6. Now the projection data is kind of disagreeing, 5.5 for him. The average sportsbook line also has it at 5.5. Now, if you look at his first game last year against the Chiefs, 5 receptions, 7 targets, 67 receiving yards in that game. Later on in the season, he started to get going. Okay. And again, you do worry a little bit about Keenan Allen being there. We don't want to load up on too many of the Chargers pass catchers as well. I would assume that those 2 out of those 3 are going to hit. It's just which one do you want to bet on? I really like Ladd McConkey, the way he looked in the preseason. Seems to have even more chemistry now with Justin Herbert. And so this is one, just kind of be on the lookout. I could end up seeing it jump down potentially 2.5 for his receptions, and then I'd be definitely okay betting the over there. And then lastly, I think it's worthwhile to talk about Justin Herbert here as well. We are getting a slight fantasy score prop line difference between his line on Underdog and his line on PrizePicks. We're calling that out. Again, that should never be happening between those two sites. So if you think he's going to have a good game, bet is over 16 on PrizePicks. That's kind of the way I'm leaning. I do think that he's not being as respected as you'd kind of think he would be. I like his over passing yards as well of 233.5. I think that's just too low. I do expect the Chargers to be throwing the football a little bit more. They have good weapons. Ladd McConkey, Johnston, although he can't really catch, I get it. Keenan Allen, Tyler Conklin's there. You said Will Dissly, he's fine. Like, they have definitely made improvements to that offense. So I think that's only going to help Justin Herbert. And it's a decently high-scoring game as well. And so to me, it promotes more of a pass-heavy script. Now, again, given the field, I don't want to go too crazy there. And so I'm going to stick with more of the pass catchers. That way, if I'm betting them all on one site, the payout's not going to be reduced at all. Now, we are about to get into the 9 to 5 bet of the day here, but do want to remind you guys, like the video. It does help out the channel a bunch. Subscribe to the channel if you guys have not done so before. If you guys are interested in betting on PrizePicks, Underdog, maybe Sleeper, or maybe better, use the links in the description below if you guys have never signed up before. That's just a simple and easy way to help out the channel when you guys signed up. Take advantage of the best promo code that's typically going on. Right now, basically, they're all like, Underdogs, 100% match on a deposit up $200. PrizePicks and Sleeper are, when you spend your first $5, you instantly get $50. Okay, so that's a pretty good deal as well. And I believe Better is a match as well, but they'll tell you guys when you're signing up there. But yes, all those are linked in the description below. Now let's go ahead and get into the bet of the day. And so the nice thing about the start of the season, specifically with the NFL, is that we are typically getting some good edges, so we don't always necessarily just need to go in on like where Vegas is telling us where we're getting the edges. That's always nice, don't get me wrong, especially when we can tack that on there, and that's why we are betting the Noah Gray over fantasy score. But I also do think Johnston for over his receiving yards, 22.5. That's a clear edge right now on PrizePicks, so we're obviously putting our best foot forward there. And I do think Xavier Worthy has a great chance to get 5 receptions, and I would favor the over there a little bit more. If you guys want to drop that down to 4.5, I think it'd be fine with that there as well. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. Make sure to give a like, subscribe to the channel. If you guys would like access to any of the tools that you saw throughout this video, head on over to 9to5sports.com so you guys can get access to the PrizePicks and Underdog cheat sheets, the PrizePicks and Underdog optimizers, and then the NFL just DFS cheat sheet, the NFL projection cheat sheet as well. All those I showed you guys throughout this video. Those are all available for a low monthly cost of $10 a month. Thanks for watching. Good luck. And as always, let's keep cashing.